and welcome to Laugh at Monkey Music Show. Today I'm David Roach. David is the singer from Junkyard. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
What's really great is you guys obviously came out, and then you had decent hit to MTV, did get the biggest sales, and then the second album delay, and then grunge happened. But you guys came back like 27 years later, and so
Yeah,
I mean, it's fantastic, and I think, and that's the important thing. I want to talk about some of these newer albums. I'm gonna say that right now. If anybody wants to go get a full on history and a great podcast with you, we talked about earlier, go to Talk Louder. It's a great podcast anyhow, and check out that one because you guys really go through all the albums and stuff. And so, but to me, I wanted to know. It always seems to me because I always immediately thought when I first heard you guys back, when I first heard you was you guys are definitely like a punk rock ZZ Top type of band. That's what you guys sound like to me. And I mean that the coolest thing because I love punk. I love punk back then. I love ZZ Top. So to me, you got a little boogie in it. So it wasn't just like a blues band. You know what I mean? And
right. Little
it,
country twang and a few
yeah.
songs too.
And I hear
Um,
it in some of your newer songs too, though, too. So it's never gone away.
I think the punk thing is more of a just the energy and the attitude than actual like it sounds like punk rock music.
Mhm.
I mean, there's definitely some punk swagger about it, but there's some blues swagger too, and so it's I don't know. We're a junkyard. We're a collection of all our influences.
What's funny is whenever I try pulling up anything like Junkyard, I'm sure you've come across it. There's a band called Junkyard. So if you look up Junkyard and you type in Junkyard Band because you want to get the band and not a Junkyard,
Yeah.
there's a band
Mhm.
called Junkyard Band,
Right.
which is
Yeah,
always kind
they're
of
from.
funny.
I think they're from DC, and yeah, I think we had to pay them like 10 grand or something back in the day to keep our name, even though it's a
Really?
different name, sort of. I mean, but yeah, whatever.
That's pretty
It's
funny. I
cool.
didn't even know that. I just know it keeps popping up. I was gonna be like, did you guys ever cross paths at all? I mean, at the time.
No, but I'm sure they know of us and we know of them. Because anytime they click on to see their stuff, we come up. So it'd be fun
You
to
guys,
meet them someday. Actually,
you guys should do a show together. I mean, it would just be so
all
fun, just
right.
like cross paths. Who
Yeah.
knows? It could be magic. You guys could be like it could be like you and Jason. You guys just like stars crossing in the night, or in the hallway.
I mean, we're from the same era. We're probably about the same age, had a lot of the same life experiences. So
Stranger
could have
things would
been,
happen.
yeah.
Vocally, when did you discover you were going to be a singer though? And because you have a certain sound and a vocal range, which I always loved, and it really hasn't wavered at all. I mean, it hasn't changed at all. I mean, through all the years, which is good. Especially you look at your peers now.
Well, I don't know. I started singing um, like third or fourth grade. I would go to the Goodwill and pick out 45s of Elvis and stuff, and I think of it more as like parroting or trying to imitate
Mhm.
singers that I admired. I developed my own style, I guess, or develop my own voice. But as far as the delivery and stuff like that, I steal from everybody,
It's
and kind
it's
of try to
it's
make it my own.
it's a good
Yeah.
voice. I mean, it's a great voice, and it's your own voice, and that's the thing with a lot of the artists and rock singers and male singers have their own
Mhm.
voice. I mean, I turn the radio and I don't feel like an old man, get off my lawn type of deal. But it's with a lot of certain singers, even pop artists at times, it's very similar. They cross, and you're like, who's that? Like, because, or if you know a singer, you can hear their voice and you just know it's who they are, what they're singing, which can be detrimental if they're trying to cross genres or something.
Yeah.
But to me, my favorite thing is when I have a singer that I know who it is. That's their voice, and
Mhm.
you literally have to imitate them to do their voice. You don't just everyone just doesn't sound like that. You have to, be purposely trying to do that. And right at the gate,
Yeah.
you had your own sound.
Well, yeah, like I said, I mean, I steal from everybody and developed it into my own. My voice is, I guess, is pretty. It's me.
Oh yeah.
if you hear it.
But and
But I
if
mean,
but I mean, yeah.
no good.
You sounded even at that young age, you sounded like you already lived a million years, and you looked as road knowledgeable and known as your denim jacket is already kind of worn in. Like it already felt like that was the guy. Like that you're already seeing with those life experiences at that right young age, and you had it in the you had that sound and soul in your voice because that was the raspiness and the the strength of your voice.
I grew up fast.
You grew up in Texas, right?
Yeah.
So that was a little bit different and a little bit. Was it huge? Was it like a culture shock going from Texas to LA or
No, not really. I mean, because I was, you know, in the punk scene in Austin and the music scene in Austin. So, and most of the people in LA were kids moving out there to be musicians. So I kind of, and I actually had friends already out there. So people that I'd met when they were on tour coming through Austin. So no, it wasn't a bunch of. It wasn't really a culture shock. I mean, the enormity of LA was kind of jarring
yeah.
because Austin was a pretty small town when I left. Um, but no, I mean, the gangs and stuff were new to me. We moved into this neighborhood when we first got there in East Hollywood, and the dominant gang there was a gang called White Fence, and we actually lived next door to this guy named Spider, who was like a honcho, like a big guy there, and we hit it off. So he was like, told everybody in the neighborhood, don't fuck with those white boys. They're cool.
Well, that's good.
So
That's good. I mean,
yeah,
it's you hook up, especially with a name like Spider. You want to really. I mean, I'm sure that's his Christian name, his birth name, right?
I
Down
don't
or
think his mom
his
named him
baptismal name.
Spider.
You don't think so? Is baptized by that?
I don't think his mom said, gave birth and said, "You're my spider." Nah,
I love when I hear
I think
somebody
you
has a
earned it.
people like that in my life who've had those great nicknames. I want the story. The first thing I do when I meet them, I'm like,
Yeah.
tell me, because clearly your name is way cooler than my boring name, and you've got a story behind yours. Mine goes back to like my mom spelling it one way, and then the nurse saying that's not the right way to spell it, and spelled it her way. And that's like that's the exciting part of my story. But like your name's like Spider or something else. And I knew somebody named Kabuki. I'm like, these are some great names. Um, well, and I was thinking because not that like it was a shock, like you're going to the big city, but to me, I always wonder like because Texas always seemed to me actually like it was almost like it was tougher, and going to LA around the time when everything was kind of glammy and pretty. To me, it's almost like it felt like it was like not that you're overwhelmed in a bad way. It was just like feel kind of like it's a different world because you were coming from like almost like a rougher thing. I
No,
always wondered.
no. Austin's a pretty laid back town. When we moved to LA, there was nothing glamorous about it. Hollywood was a fucking ghetto. Um, and over the years, between Disney and Scientology buying up a lot of property, they really cleaned it up. I mean, it's not the place it was in '86 when I landed there. I mean, it was like dangerous and dirty.
I heard
So
now it's not even like that. I heard now it's just in the ghost town again. It's you got to go to Vegas to go to rock or Nashville. Everyone's kind of moved left LA. So the sounds of
a
it,
lot of people have, yeah.
it's not the same world.
Yeah.
So actually, it is a good question now. So with you guys being reactivated and you're touring and doing playing in the gigs, is it more of a challenge now to get more of an audience, or is a lot of your fan base has gotten older and grown with you?
It's always been a
Out kind of
challenge
seeing.
getting an audience.
Well, you know what I'm
Uh,
saying. I mean, well, with COVID and actually it is a challenge getting anybody in there. But you're one of the bands that you don't need to have 18,000 billion people on Instagram to pack a club. They got people now that
right.
have a million views and a million followers, and I always say this all the time. But you bring them down to the smallest club in their own town, and they are not going to fill it because it's not the same
Well,
to
we
get
we
somebody
are
out of their
packing
house.
we are packing clubs, but it's clubs, we're never going to pack, mid-sized, you know, venues or arenas or anything like that. But our fan base is fiercely loyal, and you know, we we do respectably well. Okay, enough to keep doing it and keep it fun, and you know, after 35 years, it's more than a lot of people could ask for. So
Well, you have a
feel
lot of
pretty
belief,
good.
and I can say, I mean, and the truth is, I mean, you can be the size or whatever. I mean, but with a band like yours and what you can do, I mean, you can still go out there and make people happy in a night. I mean,
Yeah,
that's still a gift. That I mean, you write songs that have changed people's lives. It's still to this day, I still hear people talking about it. Certain songs. I mean, I tell you honestly, "Styrofoam Cup" is a great freaking song. It should be like a bigger
thanks.
hit. I mean, you're welcome. I mean, you are writing songs that are as good now or even better. I mean, honestly, I mean, I can't. Honestly, I love in on
Well, I hope they're
writing
getting. I
for.
mean, after
Well,
all
I mean,
this
but
time, I
well,
hope they're
no. But let's be honest. I
not
mean,
getting
sometimes songs are
worse.
like no, but sometimes the challenge is to not repeat yourself, but you want to be original and you want to grow. But if you go too
Yeah,
much, you lose your fan base. Or like because it's not the same band anymore. And some of the bigger bands have had that problem trying to grow as writers. And Styrofoam Cup fits in as well as it fits in with it would fit in with everything else. But it's still a growth
thanks.
in a song. And you're welcome. And it feels like it's heartfelt. And a lot of your songs are like that. How come you guys? So like, but you guys when you guys skip around a bit, like Rome is Burning, got a lot of acoustic stuff on that. What was the and obviously songs from the album before that, Hell or High Water. What was the impetus for doing that album to kind of
The impetus for doing high
well,
water.
no, for doing Rome is Burning, the whole for doing like all the acoustic stuff and putting out that because your history is like you have some stuff produced, some stuff came out, like the order of it came out and kind of mixed around. It's like old stuff, new stuff,
Right.
and
Yeah.
as a fan to
Because we
kind of
did
get an idea
we
of that.
released Faded. We released Faded in the River as a just a you know single,
Mhm.
with a B side. Um, I don't remember an acoustic version of Rome, but if you say it happened, then you
No,
probably know
no,
better than me.
the album itself, Rome is Burning
Oh,
itself. It's got a lot of acoustic songs on. It's got I don't know, it's the river's on it and Rome is Burning on it, and then it's released. Well, it's on iTunes. That's what I'm saying. It's like Saffron Cup acoustics on there. You do to the wheels fall off. It's a Blackberry Smoke song,
oh,
right?
right, right,
I have
yeah,
a guitarist on here. He was a really great guy. Don't give a damn. And then you guys obviously do
you talked to Charlie,
no,
or
I
you did
talked to
Charlie?
no, I talked to the guitarist. What's it
Uh,
escaped me
um,
right now? I can't think of his name.
yeah,
God, he was super nice guy. Super nice guy. I
yeah,
was
yeah,
thinking I
they
was supposed to
are.
get done talking. Super great guy, super great band. So I was happy to hear you do that song. And but in Hell or Wire, so it's kind of like a little EP acoustic mixture thing. I don't know if that's just for digital on iTunes, maybe that's why. It felt like it was
Yeah,
like a out of order. You're
yeah. I don't make executive decisions. I let the smarter guys in the band do that stuff. I just show up and hold the mic.
what you guys actually did, you guys, and it has out listed there as you guys doing Joker and the Triple X album is self-released. And a
Hmm.
lot of songs have kind of crisscrossed over some of those albums because they didn't get out different production times. Once again, they were really good albums. They would have been really good songs out there. It just wasn't the label or the time period for the music anymore. I mean, it feels like
Right.
once
Yeah.
you get past that time period, it's a stigma for that type of art. Like I bet you if a really
Right.
great alternative band came out right now, they're not going to do it. Like another Alice in Chains style, not sounds like them, but there's like a couple of bands that came out of grunge, like your Pearl Jams, and your Alice in Chains, and Soundgarden's, the bigger ones that came out that are still around, or that I still talked about. If that kind of band came out now, people were like, "Who?" You know?
Yeah. Oh, the irony about the whole grunge thing was that, you know, pretty much everybody with long hair in LA got their deals, terminated. Everybody got dropped from their labels. But I felt like because of our punk background, I mean, all of us were in punk bands when we were kids, that
Yeah.
we had a lot more in common with the the grunge movement than like the whatever you want to call it, the you know Sunset Strip hair metal thing, So,
Well, yeah,
but
you guys were not a glam band by any means. I mean, I thought you guys were just more of a band of the people. I mean, you obviously could cross between, musically, but yeah, I didn't feel like I think if they supported you guys more, there was a delay in that second album, you would have had a better chance to keep going. I mean, there are bands that kept going and eventually came back up again, but
yeah,
I think it was going to happen anyhow because most music styles go in like in 12 year cycles. If you look at like 70s rock and disco and then like metal and then alternative didn't last as long though, and the grunge, you know what I mean? And now it goes back
right.
to another thing again. And now it's back to some of the older stuff that people, when our age, listened to it when they were younger and made it when they were younger. Now you're at a point in your life where you're like settled and you have expendable income, and people can do these things and go out to the concerts, the M3s and the boat shows, and which are great for bands like you guys because they're like good gigs.
Yeah, and yeah, we are old enough now that our fans back then have, you know, had children, and now their children have moved on, so now they're free to act like teenagers again, I guess.
So,
Yeah,
so
the whole grunge. Go
yeah.
ahead.
No, I was gonna say the grunge thing myself. Yeah, I think the grunge thing was kind of got a weird rap. I don't think it was the only reason why heavy metal went out. Heavy metal was copying itself. It was on its third and fourth versions of copies of bands, glam wise, by the time the '90s. You know what I mean?
Everybody looked the same. Everybody sounded the same, and it just got stale. It got stagnant, and I don't really understand. I mean, I know there's diehard '80s hair band fans that are that are um, that don't like grunge because they thought it ruined, that scene. But really, I mean, rock and roll is always evolving. I mean, that's the
Mhm.
way it is. I mean, the doo-wop shit in the 50s, bands like Elvis or the Platters or the all the great a cappella bands, you know, was great. And then in the 60s, it started evolving, and bands like the Beatles and the Stones were happening. And then that evolved into even like harder stuff like Sabbath and Zeppelin and things like that. I mean, it's always changing, and it's supposed to. I mean, what if we were still listening to Elvis Presley? I mean, not that we don't, but I just mean like 50s music,
Yeah,
50 years
I was gonna say the
later.
Bay City Rollers. If we got stuck in the Bay City Rollers, that's gonna make it a
Yeah,
little more
sure.
painful.
Yeah. Basically, I mean, yeah. And yeah, I mean, there was the kind of a pop rock explosion and, hard rock explosion. And it just, that's the nature of the beast. I mean, it evolves, it changes. And I thought there was a lot of really talented bands during the grunge movement.
I agree with you, but I also think that I mean I'll be honest. Some of the styles, though, I felt like some of the styles are trying to so be the opposite of glam, but they were so much the other way. I'm like, maybe we should slow
Mhm.
down a little bit and meet in the middle because you guys are getting a little bit crazy. Like you guys fit like five people in your pants right now, the size of those pants. Like maybe we should just some of the clothes from that time period, but the music
Hey,
was
believe
just the
me, a
same,
lot of those guys in Seattle were wearing spandex in the 80s
and they couldn't do it. They weren't big.
when they
Alice in Chains weren't
when
weren't
they
that big.
traded in when they
Yeah,
traded their spandex into cargo pants. And it was the same thing. It was like when Guns N' Roses got signed, probably 200 other bands got signed because every record label was looking for the new Guns N' Roses. And maybe, 10% of them had any success. We had marginal success. Some of our, colleagues or peers, had a fair amount of success. But the same thing happened in Seattle. Once Nirvana got huge, everybody was looking for the new Nirvana. So 200 bands in Seattle got signed, and maybe 10% of them were worthy of, and then a lot of it was just same thing that happened in LA, just cookie cutter, like cheap imitations. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's probably the whole problem is, with everything, trying to keep in chase other bands and styles. It's not going to work. You got to be your own person,
Right. Yeah.
and I think the bands that stand up for each time period were their own people, and it is a good example.
Mm.
I mean, no one can be Guns N' Roses. No one can be the Rolling Stones. Like, the fact that they're actually talking about doing a new album is insane to me right now. Didn't Jagger just turn like 80 or
Yeah,
something?
sure.
And I think they're talking about. I think they're teasing about doing an album. So I mean, remember how we used to talk to, like, well, I'd like to make it as long as the Rolling Stones when they're like, be up to like 60 playing rock and roll or something. That used to be the thing when we were younger, right? And now Mick's like in his 80s still dancing up there and they're talking about a new album. You're like, well, the bar's been raised again. I mean, 80, like Mick Jagger's like old. My grandfather was like an assisted living. He couldn't walk on his own. Like Mick Jagger's like got more energy than I do.
I
That's
remember
bananas.
being at like punk shows when I was a kid, and there'd be like some people there that were like in their late 20s, early
Yeah.
30s, and I'd be like, "What is that fucking grandpa doing here?"
Well, I think old is looking different. I don't. Somebody sent me a thing. I just sent it out to my wife. A picture. It had like all the old people you thought they were old when you were younger, like on TV shows, like Flo from
Yeah,
Alice. She was like
yeah,
39. Like in
right. I know.
or like the Golden Girls, like I think in their 50s or something. Like back then, I'm like, what? Like all the ages of Archie Bunkers were in like in their 40s and stuff. So it feels like old is different when we were younger.
Well, I
You
just
know.
remember like, I mean, I just realized that my grandfather was like my age now when I, would go visit him. I was like, wow. Yeah, time is funny and elusive.
It and you think about like my grandfather. I do think about my grandfather, what they were doing at this age, and it's like worlds apart, like how they were, even health wise, they were not the same. I think
Yeah.
most of us are healthier now a little bit too. We look a little younger, we're a little different. I mean, COVID kind of put me through the ringer, but prior to that, felt like a lot of people were aging a little bit better, you know, mentally at
Well,
least.
I'm doing everything I can to derail myself, but I'm still here. So
You got to keep going. You got to keep going. You got to keep moving, And I think that what I was going to say was that with all the originals of each band movement, the reason why it's still around and still talking about it, like and it goes back to you have an original voice, and the band is very original sounding. And even Jason, Dangerous Toys, original sound. Like all the bands and Jet Boy, like a lot of those guys that are still able to go out and play now,
yeah,
all had their own sound. They weren't really copying anybody. Of course, there's influencing and being influenced by your peers growing up and your friends and your other artists, and then it's just copying them and dressing like them and trying to be them. And those are the ones that kind of fell off to the side
right.
because
Yeah.
just didn't have anything to offer. They may have been talented, they just weren't original. To that point. I don't, and that's American Idol stuff. Different audience.
Yeah. It's the whole game has changed.
Could you imagine doing it now at your age? Not well. Now, being younger, being a younger David trying to do music now. Could you imagine trying to break into it now?
Oh, I would have
It's
no
bananas.
clue how.
I don't think anybody knows how.
I mean,
Like,
there's so much competition and with social media and everybody trying to break it on you. I don't know. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it.
I know I get a
In
lot
my
of people
day, you
following
just
my
had to
show.
you
Yeah.
just had to play shows and kick ass and get attention and get better shows and get more attention.
But that seems like the way to do it for all types of music, even if it isn't rock and roll, for any type of music, just to work it and work it and work it and grow on your songs and work on your songs and work on your show, and become a band
Yeah.
and then work on your songs some more and road test
Yeah.
them. I mean, now, I say before I stepped over here, I apologize. People will follow my feed for, they want me to interview them. And they're like, you should interview me. I'm like, you look at it and it's like usually a lot of pictures of guitars on the beach or something. I'm like, but you have no music. I don't know who you are. Like I don't think there's not. I'm trying to be, judging of you. There is nothing. There's nothing there. Like everyone just wants to be a star.
Yeah.
Whereas the star of the show is the music.
Without
And I'm just
necessarily having the content.
right.
It's all the autocorrect and things like that. It's just a lot of it just sucks the soul out of the music to me, you know. Um, Songwriting is the most important aspect of it, or it is to me.
It is to me. That's what the show's about. About I literally say all the time, "Are you serving a song? Are you serving a song?" You know,
Yeah.
because if you're not, it's a waste. And that's why I appreciate your songwriting. And like I said, Styrofoam Cup is a perfect example of a really great crafted song. It's got a little everything in it, and like how you break the acoustic version's good. But man, when I first heard it back when it came out, I was blown away.
Which
The Styrofoam
which
Cup, Styrofoam Cup.
oh,
That's just an easy one to go to. I want people to listen to the albums if they haven't, but I'll put the link at the bottom. But I really think just talking about a good songwriting example from like maybe from your first two albums to now. Have you approached your songwriting any different now? Like how are you doing? How are you
no,
songwriting now?
I
Is it
still don't
just
know what the fuck I'm doing. I have no idea. Um, I'll just be walking around or whatever and come up with a line that I think's interesting, and I'll uh, write it down. And so a lot of my songs are just a bunch of one-liners that I quilt together, kind of, you know. I have no discipline. I have no like songwriting. Like I do it all wrong.
no, actually, no, you don't. And that's the thing. Like I've talked to so many people, and that's what's always great to talk about like songs. Like there's no right or wrong way. I mean,
Right.
some artists will be like, "Here's what I do for the music." And even guitar players will be like, "How often do you practice?" So like, I get off tour, I put it in the corner, and these are guys that are just ridiculous guitar players. Makes me just want to throw mine out in the streets. And they're like, "I never practice," or sometimes they're like, "I always practice." Or a songwriter would be like, "I can't think of anything. It's really hard. I can't write on the road. I can't do this. I have to sit down and then they have to have people help them." And some people just write when they're going for a walk. You know,
No, yeah, I read
I've heard it
about
before.
different artists that they make themselves every morning when they wake up write something. I
Mhm.
just don't have that discipline. I just don't. And a lot and like I'm lucky to have like working with Chris Gates um and Tim Moser. They both have like pop sensibility and like song structure ability, and I don't have that. If I try to do something, I mean, a Styrofoam Cup and The River were like two of the only songs I actually wrote myself, and I had to do the guitar part phonetically, like
You don't
you
play
know.
any guitar at all.
No,
I
and
I, I would think you'd be a good
I
guitar.
got no hand-eye coordination. But so usually because those guys are songwriters, and they can usually come up with a hook and a melody and a line, like a line for a chorus.
Mhm.
And that's when I come in, is because whatever they construct as a kind of the backbone of the song, the idea, I can take off from there and write a story around it, you know.
So literally,
But I need help. I couldn't do it without them.
well, I
For
mean, you just
sure.
said you did two songs at least without any help. I think you could play guitar.
I
There's
got
a lot of stuff
lucky.
on YouTube now. Even I never played guitar until a couple of years ago. I'm not saying I'm good, I'm not at all, but it's fun. My kids play instruments, but it's all it's fun to play cowboy chords and to learn. And I think you'd surprise yourself, you know, especially if you're just chunking away at melodies.
No,
Okay,
I
I
don't
believe you.
wanna.
All right. Well, if you don't want to, it's
No,
not
this
into
little
it.
dog, man. I don't. I've done what I've done this far. I mean, you're right, but I still not going to do it.
Well, the fact that you can hum out the songs and stuff and do it just shows me you have the obviously the musical ability. If you wanted to figure out how to pull it out a little differently to shape your own songs, because the ones you did write on your own. But I think the compositions are good. I think like especially something like Lifer. I mean, and all the newer stuff is so exciting. It's so I mean, Hello High Water is a great album. Like it's as good as the debut album. It's good as you know, just different times.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I
Well,
love the fact
we
that
talked about that earlier, where you said bands that have been around so long are trying to recreate themselves or something.
yeah,
Um,
it can be a challenge to find
I think,
a balance.
I think that 27-year layoff between albums, um, we just kind of picked up where we left off. It wasn't like we went through years of jazz exploration or trying
Yeah.
to change who we were, because we're kind of a one-trick pony, kind of like maybe AC/DC or Rose Tattoo in that sense. We didn't try to grow and develop and become something that we weren't, so. And that's why we never lost interest of the fans, I think, because they know what they're getting.
Well, I think if an artist is just who they are all the time, whether they just change their music or decide something different, as long as they're honest, it's just they're honest. It's when the artist is trying to be something they're not, they try to change because they feel like they have to. This is who you are. This is your style of music, and people love it. But your songwriting has gotten better, I think.
Well,
It's
it's a personal choice. It's everybody's got a different reaction.
true. But I think it shows, and anybody's a fan of the band would acknowledge that. Where are we actually with music for you guys now? Like a newer album coming? How are we shaping up?
I'd say it's about 2/3, maybe 3/4 written. We got some demos, and I think it's my favorite album we've done. If we can just get to doing it, that'd be great. I think Pat's doing the live drum, because we demoed everything, but we did it in Tim's studio, so it was Tim just did everything. They weren't live drums.
Yeah,
it was just drum machine and
like scratch
stuff like
track
that.
and stuff.
So, right. So, but we got the songs, most of them, and we're just going to do live drums and live guitar, and I'll probably re-sing a few things. See how it goes. But I'm really proud
the songs. So you have all the songs.
Yeah.
So it's just not okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I think I know people. These are hard. And I know fans are always like, "What do we well now?" Or "I don't care." Like it's hard because you get both sides of the fence with fans, especially for this style of music nowadays. They either don't care and they want to see the greatest hits thing, which is
right,
exhausting for most artists and for most fans, because it's just like I hear it one more time, And some artists like to hear it all the time, and then some songs are harder to sing as you get older too. If you're old stuff,
I've been pretty lucky that I'm.
You sang in your range though. You didn't try.
Problems.
You didn't. Yeah, but you've never tried to do like these crazy. You surfed the song. You didn't do these vocal acrobatics where you were like when you were younger. Just because you
Right.
can hit a note doesn't mean you have to hit a note. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's been very loyal to you as you get older because you sound great now, and you can still reproduce it.
And there's obviously songs that we have to do.
Hollywood
and
Simple
stuff.
Man. Simple Man.
Simple Man's no problem. Hollywood was hard to sing when I was 20, so it hasn't gotten any easier.
It feels like it's harder because it's just the pace of it. You get winded easy. The phrasing just feels like that's da, 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 da. That would be the harder part, especially if you get older.
No, just getting up there
Oh, okay.
to a little bit out of my range, but I think it pretty good.
I think you sound great on live online. I haven't heard you in person. I think you guys do a good job live. From what I've heard. Is it hard for you guys now to add new songs to the set? How are the fans about that?
Well, we kind of we don't do a lot of new stuff. We do new stuff, or we do stuff from High Water and Lifer and stuff like that. But we kind of just do like about 1/3 of each album, to try and get everything in there without, I remember when I was a kid going to see my favorite bands, I didn't want to hear their new stuff.
Really?
Sometimes it's okay.
You buy their new album, you want to hear it. How does the new stuff has to become old stuff? You have to hear it first as new stuff.
Yeah, I know. I was young.
Well, does it
Um,
change now for you that you're older now? Do you appreciate it? Do you want to hear some new stuff?
yeah, I would love to drop a few of the things I've been doing for 35 years and do more new stuff. But the fans want to hear the old
Right.
stuff. You know, that's another thing going on right now, like all the tribute bands.
Hmm.
Um, like there's places, clubs that we can only play on a Sunday night because the venue has been sold out for weeks on Friday and Saturdays for tribute bands. And I believe, I mean,
That's awful.
well, Neil Peart's not around anymore, but Rush could be playing someplace, and if there was a tribute band across the street doing, the whole 2112 album or
Yeah.
something, people would rather go see the tribute band. I mean, so original live music is a dying breed in a lot of ways.
Well, and it's funny, being the tribute music they're doing is probably a lot of that genre anyhow. You know what I mean? I think a tribute band is fine. I wouldn't pick it over another band. And I don't usually go to a lot of shows begin with or tribute shows. And I saw one recently. It was at a charity for special needs. They do every week they had new bands. It was a fundraiser, and every week
Mhm.
I'd go with my wife and my mother-in-law, and all different types of music. And the week I went to it had to be like a hair metal week or something. And everyone's like, "Oh, Sean, you should like that." I'm like, "Not really, because that's not. I usually like originals type of stuff." And usually for trivia bands, you can't pull it off because you can't be every sound. You can't do every guitar tone right. You can't sing everybody's voice, especially rock voices back then. People actually sounded differently, so it just doesn't sound right. You know, I'll say the band did a good job. I mean, the energy in the audience, people loved it. They were tapping their feet, and that's what they wanted. People wanted those hits, like a radio, like
Yes,
it was a radio station, and it,
nostalgia. Just
you know,
it's a nostalgia show, and
right.
yeah, they like to recreate. And a lot of the bands are really talented. There's no doubt. They pull it off well.
I think it's
I
good because that was your favorite time in life. You know what I mean? Like when you found your favorite bands, you were still a teen. You were starting in your early 20s. You were a different person, and then all of a sudden, a lot of people stop listening to music at that point, and maybe just started again and don't know the other albums because they stopped listening to music for like 20 years. You know what I mean? And then all of a
Yeah,
sudden they're back now and they want to hear Hollywood again, and they don't realize you guys have done like a couple other albums in between. You
yeah.
have new material.
Well, what are you gonna do? I
Well,
actually did a tribute band with the guys from Jet Boy, like in '87. It was a AC/DC. We just did Bon Scott songs,
here,
and Fernie Rod was such a just nerd rocker, man. He learned every lick, every Angus lick, like perfectly. Um, we played this one show, and Brett Michaels was there, and he comes up after the show and goes, "Man, I just closed my eyes and I swore it was AC/DC playing."
that's a good compliment.
But yeah,
I'm sure
yeah, this is
it,
flattering. Sure.
it is, and I think it has its place, and it can be very fun. And I think it just has to have a place. And I think it's hard. I feel for musicians. They see and I think, and obviously you're also active on Facebook and Facebook is loaded with lots of opinions and all kinds of stuff. And one of the
Mm.
things I see, I'm not going to go into politics at all, but this is not politics. But well, musicians will go on and they'll get mad and they get mad that their friends won't go see them. They're not a band like they've been known, but they got original music, but they've been doing this for a while. The friends won't go out and see them, but the friends will go out and see a tribute band. And I can see both sides because really they just don't want to. Maybe they're not into your music, they don't want to say anything, or you shouldn't have to. Your friend shouldn't have to feel like they have to go to your show. And once again, it's going back to the nostalgia feeling. Their band's not going to do that when they do go out now at this point in their life. But at the same time, who's supporting the new music? Because
Right.
it's a double-edged sword. To expect it maybe
Or
isn't
the old
necessary.
music that were.
Well, it is. I mean, the audience is different now. I mean, do you notice the age difference at your show? I know some bands are saying they're getting younger crowds, and that's great. Do you see it?
Most of the young people that we get are children of our
old fans.
Yeah.
And usually they're like, even though they got dragged there and didn't care, um, they're they really enjoyed it. They were like, wow. I mean,
I hear
basically
that.
they almost say it just like that. Yeah, my parents made me come, but you guys are really fun to watch, so that's cool.
I think music is missing that. I think I brought my kid to see Stephen Piercy, and I don't think she knew any of the songs. And she came along with me, and she had a great time, and that was it. You know, she digs the music
Well,
because I think it's the energy of just loud guitars and just sweat and just rock and roll and screaming. I mean, it's just good
yeah.
melodies, and it's just something that is missing a lot, and it's been
Well,
missing
it's
for a
just
while.
really, yeah, it's raw and it's in your face and it's not what they're used to on whatever format they get their, you know,
Right?
music with, with the, choreography and then, 12 dancers behind, fill in the blank singer
Yeah.
chick, and it has a more like a rawness and I don't know, sense of danger or something that you don't get in all the formulated, you know, crap. I don't like to talk shit about new music because it makes me sound like an old man. Like
No, I
back
don't
in
think it's.
my day, we
Well,
did
that's
it
the
a
thing. It's
little
not just
different.
new music. It's always been like that, though. Even music back then, if it was formulated, you know what I'm saying? It was hard. You
Yeah.
could be a good
Oh,
pop band. You
for
could be. I
sure.
mean,
Yeah.
there are great pop bands that were back then and now. I can say, I think Duran Duran were great back then, and they're still writing good stuff, and they sound good. And but you could, and they weren't formulated. Other bands have copied them, but they can sing and they can play their instruments really well. You know,
Yeah. I
that's the
mean, you could
difference.
even go further back than that, and when labels like Motown and
Oh yeah,
different different had they had a hired group of writers that were just hit machines. um the guys of Muscle Shoals, and there's a few really good documentaries
oh, I know you
about
don't.
that
Yeah, there's some other people
period.
that used to write too. They were the hit crew. They're called. Was it the
Yeah,
Wrecking
the
Crew or
hit crew.
something?
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yep.
exactly. um and so that was all pretty formulated. I mean, they're amazing
Right.
songs
And the
and stuff.
musicians were good, and those guys couldn't write, so they put the two worlds together. But I think that was the beginning of the end for
Mhm.
formula
Well,
music.
yeah.
But if that's what people want, I mean, that's what people want. I mean, you can't. That's just how the world is. I think.
Well, the hit makers and the big record labels want hits. They want, I mean, it's just good business sense. It's like bands like us and a lot of my friends' bands are just sort of you know, we all, I think, knew from the beginning we were never going to be huge, but we still had to do what we had to do because it's what we love, you know.
And
And
that's where you get the respect. You guys are very honest. And just it's good music, and it doesn't matter what you. It's not about being a star. It's just about writing good songs you like and playing them. You know, and you guys
yeah,
have really put up a lot of stuff to go out and do it. It's not an easy tour. It's not. You're not
no,
looking
no.
out. It's
When
not
I was
Whitney
a
Houston.
kid,
You guys aren't spilling, cocaine on your lobster on your jet. You know what I mean? It's like
right?
five guys with gas problems in the back of a
Yeah,
van, and maybe
yeah.
you're gonna run out of gas on your way there, and everyone's sharing like three burritos. You know,
You've been on tour
I know a little bit about it.
now,
Yeah,
my kid.
I mean, and it's that's why you guys get the props. And you guys when people come to town, people need to see bands. It's really hard.
But no, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted
Yeah,
to buy my mom a big house and, do the whole thing. Um, I'm comfortable where I am and I like being able to hang out with people. I don't get mobbed, you know, I don't get, I can just hang out, have a beer with, some fans before the show, talk to them afterwards, and it's a good experience for everybody, and because so like, he's just a regular guy.
Yeah.
He's like he's approachable. I like to be approachable. I like, to shoot the shit with my fans. It's a luxury. It's really, I mean, I don't want to go to my, get off stage and go hide in a, back room or a hotel room for the, and not have any connection with the people that are buying your t-shirts or driving 200 miles to see you. I mean, that's your bread and butter, and those are the people that allow you to have what you have. So I'm glad to be able to hang out with them without it being like a big pain in the ass. Yeah, there is always one guy though.
Well, the problem is, I think that the thing is, I think conceptually to me, the idea of having a lot of people know you would be kind of freaky, like to not have it, because I've never been in a known person, so I think the idea of it kind of seems almost like, whoa, kind of weird. I imagine you get used to it in a way. In a way, it can be kind of, you're like, oh,
I just mean like 99% of the people that I interact with are cool, and they want 5 or 10 minutes of your time, and a photo, autograph or whatever, and we shoot the shit. But there's usually like one guy that just wants to like monopolize your time and like just is relentless. And you're like, look, it's been nice talking to you, but there's other people here that I'd like to give a little attention to, and you're sucking the fucking blood out of me, dude. But it's part of it.
Those are the type of people that are always there. And I think, a lot of the fans, I hear that. I'm like, how you talk to so-and-so? What are they like? I'm like, they're like a nice person. They get up and they have coffee and they do their life. And, sometimes it's a big crowd and sometimes it's a small crowd. But literally, there's the same people as you, everyone else. I don't really talk to a lot of egos, especially in the rock between the 70s and, 90s rockers. A lot of people are really chill. I think it's the fans that get so crazy about it. It puts things at a weird, weird level for the artists. Like, I can imagine being on a boat cruise. I know a lot of artists get kind of freaked out about that because you're trapped on the boat. And fans get kind of crazy. And you got nowhere to go. Swim with the sharks to get off the boat,
Yeah.
But I've heard that it's actually, that's the thing. I've actually heard that a lot of artists are very surprised that it works out really well. And I think it's because of the pedigree and the age of some of the fans now. It's gotten better, I do want to say, I want to taking the time today. I'd like maybe we can talk again when your album's done. But I want to say, on Facebook, you have posted some stuff, and you have another talented person in your family. I know your son's an artist. Maybe you want to do a little shout out to your son and their awesome art abilities.
Just if you're interested in art, he's on Instagram, Ray Roach Fine Arts, I believe.
Well, the link will be below it for the podcast and for YouTube, so I don't need to memorize it, kick it out there. But I do want to say I've seen the art also posted on your Facebook, and it's pretty cool. And besides supporting bands, you support a young artist too, because it's just as hard to being an artist. It's like being a musician without a cool soundtrack in your life. It's just it's just a lot of messy paints in your room. So thank you. We're looking forward to the music. People check out the links below, and we'll talk again when the new album comes out. Okay.
Cool. Love to.